Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All Things Middle-earth here with a quick video looking at some potential healers for Rise to War 2.0. Now this comes post the healing update, which now makes healing modified by commands. If you look here, it says on the command section, healing granted by the commander's formation. For a Gadriel at base with 94, it is plus 18.1% healing granted. And then most of the healing skills themselves are modified by focus. So they'll modify by the commander's focus, and then have this, I think, command percentage on top. But this is all sort of speculation and theory because I've not seen it a whole lot in season, and I want to wait until I have seen multiple reports to see how effective it can be. I think for me, best case, if there are a few commanders who can now be better supports alongside another support or with damage or whatever, I think that's great. It opens things up a little bit. I don't think we're entering into a healing meta by any means, but I'm hoping that some other commanders have a little bit more viability to be used in a support role. And I want to talk about 5 that I think are very, very likely to be on that list if it works out. And it could end up being none of them. So please don't invest in these commanders. I'm just trying to have the conversation, and I want to hear what you guys think about it too. So let's go ahead and jump in here. 5 healers who could have potential moving forward. All right, just so you guys can see what I am looking at, because I'm a visual learner, and so I need to put it all out in a spreadsheet and see. I have gone through and listed out most of the healers in the game, at least the ones that kind of make sense or are a little bit easier to track what's going on. And I'm looking at their focus stat rank. So for example, if we look at Radagast here, he has the 5th highest focus in the game. I'm looking at their command stat rank, which for Radagast is the 18th highest in the game, which is going to modify their overall healing. The focus stat will modify the individual heals themselves. Then I'm looking at an average of those two numbers. Again, not that that number really means anything, but just for my brain to see on average with their focus and command. If it's a very low number, that means that that's pretty good. So for example, someone like Kieran actually has a very low average because it's got 9 on the focus and 10 on command. So it just makes it easier for my brain to look at that. But the average doesn't really mean anything. It's just an average of those two numbers. So anyway, there's an average of the command and focus stat ranking amongst all commanders. We then have their 1 or 2 skills, because there's only 1 or 2 for every commander. And I'm putting here, this percent is how much healing they would do in a 10-round battle. So bear in mind, there are times that being more on the front end is a lot better because the battle goes quicker, or sometimes, the other way around. So this is just a way for me to kind of wrap my head around it, but not necessarily what this will end up being. So we can actually see right above me what the total healing percent that commanders could do based on their skills in a 10-round battle. And then we can look at those numbers and look at their actual focus and command stats to see if anybody really stands out. That's how I'm making this list. But again, I'm not an expert at the numbers and the statistics of all these things. So this is just an easy, simple way for me to lay out and kind of get an idea for who I think has potential. All right, so number 1 is going to be Radagast. I think Radagast has some of the most potential because he has 2 healing skills. He has the Brown and he has Healer, which are both modified by focus. You can see here modified by focus, and then right here it says effect modified by focus. And he has the 5th highest focus in the game. So his base focus is sitting here at 69. Very nice, Radagast. And so he's got high base focus, which means these are going to do really well. And I like these especially because they restore HP to lots of formations. So here it's in the first 4 rounds, but it is 2-3 formations. And here it's to everyone, but it is 2-3 formations as well with a debuff chance removal. So I feel like it's pretty decent. And he does have the 5th highest of the focus stats. In terms of command stat, like his overall command that would be modifying this, he is 18th, so not on the back end by any means. I think the lowest on the entire list where we have for healers here is 67th. So he's probably in that top 3rd, but just barely. He's not a top 5 or top 10 by any means in command. But he will get a little bit more command than other ones to boost the overall numbers, which I think is decent. And if we combine the average of his rank of command versus focus, like I showed in the sheet, he ends up being in 2nd place with the 2nd highest average of his combined rankings, which again is just a number that I made up, so don't take it too seriously. But for me, that's a pretty good combination of numbers to rank 2nd highest in. And if we look at his skills, which I showed in the sheet earlier, he has the total highest overall percent healing, which is 4,650% of healing going out 2 formations. Now, again, if certain troops and there's not enough troops to heal because people are dying or it doesn't go 10 rounds, this number changes significantly. So this is not meant to be the end all be all of numbers. It just gives me an idea of what's the max potential he could heal. And I think the other nice thing about Radagast and what makes him in this list is that he doesn't care who he's healing. And that's why we're not going to include people in this list who only heal medium units or small units. He can do whoever. And again, for me, you're going to want high HP units so that that 4,600 HP or whatever is going on to a lot of HP. So I think Radagast is potentially going to be one of the, if there is anybody who can move into his support role, I think Radagast could be it. Will he be? Should you invest? Please do not do that until we know for sure, but I think he has some of the most potential. All right, next up is Kieran the Shipwright. Kieran is another character with 2 healing skills. He has Lord of the Havens, which is going to restore 150 to 2 to 3 formations. This is modified by focus. Then he also has Scholar of the Occult, which is also modified by focus. So 2 healing skills modified by focus. If you look at him, he is the 9th highest focus commander in the game. So pretty decent focus. Again, not maybe as crazy high as Radagast, but 9th is pretty good. And he also is 10th in the command stat. So his command is also very solid. So he will have more command modification over his overall healing, but less for focus on the individual skills. So we'll need to see how much focus modify these skills to see what's more important. And I have a feeling it might be focus, but that's just a feeling because I don't know. To me, well, again, we'll see how it works out. But he has 2 skills that are modified focus, and he has decent command, which is a good start for him. Now, looking at the numbers for his stats, like I mentioned, my average of the focus and command ranking, Kieran actually has the highest at 9.5. So again, that's pretty good for him. That overall, he seems well-rounded in that, where if you, depending on what you go with the gear direction, which the direction you go should just depend on which one modifies better, which we'll figure out. But he has options for both. It's not like he has to lean in one or the other. So I think that's pretty good. And his total healing stats are going to be at 3,375%. So I think in terms of overall healing in 10 rounds, I think he's 3rd place. So not bad for his rankings across the board. Just very solid, well-rounded. And I think in the proper lineups, he could do some cool stuff. Again, if you ran his healing with this skill as a support, he could really do a lot of work in the right formation. So I think very, very interesting. But that is Kieran, who's the 2nd one on the list. All right, next up is Gadriel. Gadriel has the 2nd highest focus in the game, which makes her a very, very interesting one because she has Scholar of the Occult just like Kieran, which is modified by focus, again, 100% to the commander's formation each round. And then she has Nanya's Guardian, which is for 2 formations, modified by focus. There's also a guaranteed debuff removal, which is pretty good as well. So not bad skills there. But like I said, the big thing I think makes her interesting is she has the 2nd highest focus in the game. I want to say maybe the only one that's higher is like Sauron. Okay, actually, I'm just looking at the sheet I had previously did say Sauron was number 1. I'm looking and his base focus is 80 at 1.08 per level, and her base is 81 with 1.1. So she actually is the highest focus damage or has the highest focus in the game. Maybe that changed with the update. I'm not 100% sure. So highest focus in the game with 2 healing skills modified by focus. Not to mention her damage skills are also going to be modified by focus. So that's already what she would be doing, and now she has more potential, I think, to be that kind of like really good like hybrid Z6 damage with some healing type of commander. But you could also go the other way and go more healing, whatever you want to do. So anyway, highest focus in the game to start out is very, very good for her. Now, she is 31st in command. Her base command is 94, which is not very high. She, again, 31st puts her about middle of the road, so not bad. But it's not like she'll get big increases here like some other commanders. But again, I think the focus carries that. It keeps her average pretty good. Her average is 16.5 between the 2, but her command is not really what makes it impressive. It's the high focus, in my opinion. And last but not least, again, ending a 10-round battle where she gets all these things off, it's about 3,500% HP healed over the course of those rounds, which is the 2nd highest total possible healing. So that with her high modification, and again, this number I'm putting out just is this base number here. It does not factor in the focus, which with the highest focus, that means she's going to get more numbers than anybody. So her actual healing could be more. But again, I think Gadriel has some of the most potential just because of that high focus. All right, next up is going to be the Undying. And I'm mentioning Undying mostly because I know that people are RP and evil are going to get frustrated with me if I talk about all good commanders. But I'm going to be honest, good side has more of the healing. That should not be a surprise if you're playing evils. Hopefully you're not shocked. But we're going to talk about Undying for a second because I do think people run him with damage like this. People run him with a hybrid undead commander, but there could be a full support build with his heal and undead commander potentially. This is modified by focus. It's a really, really big heal to 3 formations in round 5. Actually, it takes effect in round 4 for 1,000% HP. So all that's going out. So he ranks 15th in focus and 15th in command. So his average between those two is actually higher than someone like Gadriel, for example. But again, they're both low enough that they're equal, so it doesn't really change. But he does have some balance there between his focus and command, which again, it could be a lot worse for him. And the total healing that's going to go out for him is going to be 3,000, which is again just this number times 3 because it's this 1,000 going out 3 times to your formations, and that puts him in about 4th place. I also calculated in his like 300 extra here. So he's got the 4th highest potential percent heal out of anybody, which I think is decent. If you already have him and you're running him as a support commander, you could look at a situation where you go full support with him, although damage is just so good. I have a hard time feeling like you wouldn't run more damage than not, but maybe you'll end up running the damage with the heal instead of the evade. Well, again, we'll see what plays out, but I do think he could be an option or become more of a support option for those interested on the evil side. All right, next up is going to be Sunned, and again, trying to round this out with about 5. Maybe I'll do one more after this, but wanted to cover a couple of evil commanders, and I wish there were more options. The next one is Sunned, who is just not really great in 2.0 in my opinion, but I think this potentially puts her into a decent support role. So we have her skill here, Sunland Tactics, which is modified by focus, which is not good for her, unfortunately, but it says has a 50% chance to restore 150% HP to 2 allied formations each round, and actually gets up to 3 formations. So she has this heal going on. The other thing you could use with her is something like the Panther Leader, so you could run those 2 support builds. But in terms of stats, she has the 10th highest command, and someone was posting on our Discord a fully geared Sun of what it looks like. The actual number here gets pretty high, like almost up to 100% extra for the healing, and her focus is 15th. So it's not low focus by any means, and again, her average is actually lower than a few we've looked at. So again, we're just kind of looking at numerically right now, but I do think for the evil side, characters like the Undying or like Sunned potentially have more support option now, which I don't think is a bad thing. But until we see how things modify, it's going to be hard. And for the most part, you're not going to put focus gear on Sunned, I don't think. So I don't see this heal getting a whole lot better, but it could be something where if you have her and you need a support, she could fill that role a little better than before. All right, last but not least, we're going to do 6. This is honorable mention because I think he deserves to be mentioned, especially as a tier 2, because I know we talked about a lot of tier 3s, but just kind of how it's playing out with the stats here. Gandalf the Grey has the 7th highest focus in the game. He has the Grey here, which is modified by focus. He's already a beast with White Council, which wants focus as well. So if you're already running high focus on White Council, the Grey now becomes an option. Some people run Wizard for damage. Some people run Mithrandir. You really have all the options now. And depending on how invested your Gandalf the Grey is, you could run multiple of them. But the 7th highest focus means that this healing could be very decent. There's a chance to restore an additional time there. So depending on RNG as well, it could be a lot better. Again, saw some early reports and it looked like his increase pre and post update was pretty significant. So he's already a support commander who just, I think, gets a little bit better. In terms of command, he's 20th. So again, probably that top third of command. And if you could find heavy command here with a lot of focus, there could be a really middle ground for him where he gets a lot of focus, a lot of command, and does a decent amount with the Grey, but we'll have to see when we get in. And again, his overall healing is at 2,400%. And there's actually a few on the list we didn't talk about that are above him, but I feel like he's pretty applicable as for one to talk about because he's just, White Council's already so good. So anyway, those are 5 or actually 6 commanders that I think could be potential really good healers just based on those factors. Again, these are kind of arbitrary numbers that I didn't make the numbers up, but in terms of like the categories, ranking their focus amongst commanders or ranking their command, just to see how it plays out. And you can kind of color code them and see, you know, if someone's very red, that means, hey, they don't really have any of these stats going for them, but the more green they are, probably the better in terms of what they can do. So we will have to see how it actually modifies once we get in, and they might not be useful at all. But for those who want to think about it and talk, I'd love to hear what you guys think. If there's anybody that is a standout as well. There are more on the list, as you can see. I think King Aragorn has a lot, or King of Men has a lot of potential with the high command stat and a heal, but some of the stuff just doesn't go with their kits. So he's a damage commander, he wants damage gear, and so trying to run command gear to boost that for healing just doesn't make sense to me. So there are others who have a lot of potential, but I just don't think their kits are very cohesive, so I don't think it makes sense. So I didn't include them for that reason. But let me know what you guys think. That's some healing speculation for you. If I missed anybody who you think is going to be very significant, let me know. And as always, I'll see you guys in a future video.